He has 6 to 7 years of quality experience into the field of cybersecurity and has been working as a subject matter expert for Upgrade Campus since around 1 year and is running his own firm that is Hackerzula itself. So, me and Sanchit sir are both the co founders of Hackerzula, and his main area of expertise lies in system hacking and shell scripting. So he is, of course, the perfect person with 6 to 7 years of quality experience to explain you different things in a very simplified manner. And yeah, so we are going to start in the next 2 to 3 minutes. And till then, let's wait to cross 30, 40 people in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Just try to stay till the end in the webinar and stay attentive because you're going to enjoy that. So, those who are attending since the past 2 to 3 times and those who are attending it for the fifth time, just quickly in 2 to 3 lines, quickly just type in your reviews of the last 5 or 3 or 2 sessions that you have taken. Were you able to understand the things? Anything that you would like to tell mentor, or you know tell about mentor? How is he teaching, and is everything understandable or not? So this would really help us to improve, and feedbacks are always for improvement, right? So quickly just type in 2 to 3 lines in the chat box. So Our mentor is here, and let's start with the webinar. All the best, everyone.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I guess my voice is audible to everyone. Please do let me know in the chats if it's audible. What about others? Why there are so less interactions? Are you not able to listen to my voice? Please let me know all the other peoples who are able to hear me. I need interactions, or else I would be also teaching in a very lazy manner, so that just like with presentations or something, right? So please don't force me to do that. Please do interact, because we really want to keep these sessions interactive. Yesterday as well, right? For your group, we sent the link, but I guess you guys were not interested, because a lot of people didn't join yesterday, and we did the session yesterday for a different group, right? Because these kind of sessions are going for around about 4 to 5 groups every day. So yeah, these sessions have been taken for those groups now. So yeah, let's start with today's session, right? Over here, we would talk a lot of things. We would talk about a lot of things about the things, right? And I basically can see, right, most of you are coming from previous sessions, right? Also that means that I don't have to explain you everything about hack and slash and all these things. Aditi has already told that, so we can just continue to the session today. And today's session would be based on SQL injection live, right? So the SQL injection is basically an attack that is basically performed when you want to introduce, or you want to make any kind of arbitrary SQL code to work inside the backend, and that basically could allow you to take the access of the database exactly, and you can get the results from the database, right? So there are a lot of techniques of doing this particular attack. We will understand more about it when we start the session. So basically, this is about us. You already know about it, right? And yeah, this is me, right? In case if any of you is here for the very first time, I am one of the co-founder of this firm as well, and this I am a cybersecurity expert, a trainer, and basically a public speaker as well. These are my social media profiles. In case you want to visit, here are the profiles. Here you can visit, and you can just simply go through with it, right? And in case you have anything to interact with, I'll be very glad if if any one of you could have something, and if you have any project to discuss, or if anything is there, right? So this is a Discord channel link, right? Because here everything that we do gets uploaded here. All the links, all kind of things that we basically perform, everything gets uploaded on the social media already, right? So in case if you guys really want to go through with the social media, here are the links for social media things, right? And all kind of things are there inside the Discord channel. So let's go ahead. Today we would be going through with we won't be going through with the presentation again. We would be basically checking out the session for SQL injection. Now the bug bounty session was basically taken yesterday, and that session already got completed. The links for that recordings are basically there. The links are available onto the Discord channel itself, and the community WhatsApp group. And also here we would be talking about live SQL injection. Now SQL injection is a web based vulnerability, Right. Now, this particularly involves SQL, and this particularly involves how this particular database service works. Right. So we basically hack into this database service, and we basically try to get the data out of this particular we exploit the service, and we take out the database content, and try to bypass the authorization and the logins. Basically, that is what SQL injection is. Right, I'm not able to find the Friday recorded video. Well, then there are some of the videos. I guess on Friday we did the session basically on um, social media hacking. So that's already there. That's recorded, encoded, and uploaded on YouTube. Right, so that's already there. In case if it's not there, we will make public the previous one. Although there are like a lot of sessions uploaded on YouTube. Right. So basically, let's go ahead with this today. And over here we basically have the things, right? So we will talk about SQL injection. So to understand SQL injection, we have to go through with the basic understanding first of all, right? You might have noticed different kind of logins, or you might have noticed different kind of things over there. So for example, I could say that there are like a lot of websites which have this vulnerability. So one of them being I basically have like one or two marked over here. For example, um, and if I open this particular website over here is a simple website, right, which is a hardware selling website. The hardware related to basically what we have, like these plumbing hardware basically. And this particular website is a website where we can see that we have like all the products listed, we have all the services, we have like a contact. So a very simple website, nothing that much fishy over here going on. But the point is that there are basically simple admin logins over here. As you can see, the whole website is here. On this particular website has an admin login. So if I click on the admin login, here we basically have the admin login page. Now this is where the admin would log in, and this is basically the place where admin would once log in and see the details of all the things. And obviously we cannot bypass this because we do not know the ID and password of this particular login. So what happens if I simply type admin or something like this and try to click on login? It would simply basically say wrong username and password, because I do not know the username and password right now. So that is the point. Now we have to go through with this particular thing, and we have to basically understand how this particular thing works. So to understand how the logic works, we have to first of all see this, right? Also, for doing this particular attack, we also have to basically go through and have this extension called as Vapalizer. So this Vapalizer extension basically allows us to check basically what kind of functionalities and what kind of programming languages are currently working on my server, right? So that is what I have to first of all look into. So over here, in case if I see that we have like PHP working over here. Now PHP generally means that we kind of have the SQL server running, and that SQL server means that we can do SQL injections, we can try to find out the bugs over here. So that is a really good thing, right? Because we have seen over here. So the point is that we need to understand first of all how to check in Vapalizer what are the things we have to check for. So either in web server you can see Apache, if this particular name you see Apache, right, or you see PHP, right? In case if you see PHP and Apache, that means SQL would be working over there. Why? Because SQL is a database language, right? It's a database query language by which you query the language and you basically fetch out the databases from inside. But Apache is basically a kind of render machine for that. For example, you know that if you want to compile the C++ code, C++ is compiled in a compiler, right? Python on the other hand needs a interpreter. You interpret Python language, and one by one all the lines are basically interpreted, right? We all know that C and C++ are compiled through a compiler, and basically Java needs a JVM, that's a Java virtual machine, through which the code is converted into bytecode. Python needs an interpreter. In the same way, PHP needs a server, right? PHP needs a server to be rendered. So over here we have Apache server. So the Apache server was basically built for PHP only. So in case if you see Apache running anywhere, you can go and you can just simply say that okay, this is PHP running, and yes, I know that PHP is there, so SQL could also be there. Why? Because SQL is a certain language, or SQL, right? SQL, can call it anything. So SQL, structured query language, is basically a language which is written specifically, PHP basically was written specifically for SQL, right? Now SQL can run with any of the backend, any of the programming language. For example, it can work with it can work with Java servlets, or it can work with simply Python. It could also work with Ruby on Rails. It could also work with Node.js, right? But PHP can only work with SQL. So in case if you see PHP working over there, in case if you see Apache working over there, then that means SQL injection might exist, right? Now second thing, Apache server and PHP. The second thing is that you might have a Windows IIS server, right? Now Windows IIS server is just the brother of Apache server only. And when we talk about Windows, Microsoft has a different platform of doing PHP, right? Microsoft like literally have created a new framework that is just similar to what PHP is, just the name is a little bit different. So the name of this particular thing is ASP.NET. So in case if either you see ASP or PHP, you know that okay, this is a kind of thing that I was looking for, and you can go ahead with the attack. So what you have to look for, you have to basically look for either in the programming language there should be PHP, right? Either you need to look for PHP, right? Or either you need to basically look for ASP.NET, right? So either just look for PHP or just look for ASP.NET. So this would be there. And in the server option, either you would be looking basically for let's say what we say it, either you have to look for this particular thing called as Apache server, right? Or either you have to basically look for this particular server that we have, that we basically call Windows IIS. Okay, are you able to see what I'm writing on the screen right now? Just let me know in the chats if it's visible. No? Okay, I guess there's some issue over here. Let me see. I'm just sharing the screen once again. Okay, so now it would be visible, I guess, right? So either you need to have PHP or ASP.NET, right? Or the second thing, you need to basically have Apache or Windows IIS server, right? So these are the basic things that you basically need in the server. Either it should be this, or in the programming language either it should be this, right? PHP works with Apache server, and Windows have their own kind of configuration which is just similar to that. We just need to find these things, right? So if we found these, right, then we need to exploit this. Now to understand the exploit, first of all we need to understand how these things are binded together and how really SQL works. So for that I just need to simply go to this thing. Let me just explain you first of all how these things, how the logic basically works. Okay, so here we would talk about three things, right? So number one, we would talk about our HTML. So let's just simply write our HTML over there, right? Now this HTML is basically our front end, right? This HTML is basically our front end, so we can just simply say front end over here, right? So front end, right? So this is our front end that we basically see, right? So this is our front end, and when this is our front end, we can basically understand the other things. For example, we can then go ahead with a back end, right? So HTML is front end, where we basically what we basically see. Now there is a one more thing called as this backend system, which is called as PHP. Now PHP is basically your backend, and backend basically connects your database and your front end. You can just correlate, or you can just apply the analogy of a simple waiter and a, consumer customers and basically a hotel. You can understand that basically if there's a hotel, and in that particular hotel, right, you go ahead and you basically sit down for having food. So that waiter is basically the backend kind of a thing, right, that fetches the data from the kitchen and gives to the front end. That means you. That is how these things are working. So PHP is basically the backend over here. Then there is a front end as well. Sorry, there is a database as well from where all the things would be picked up, and this particular database is called as SQL. Now this particularly is my database language, right? So SQL is just a database, just like how you go ahead and check out Microsoft Access or simply Microsoft Excel, right? It's basically different kind of cells, columns, and rows, and you save the data in that manner. So if I basically go here and if I basically see the data, right, or check out the data in SQL could be something like this. There could be a table, and in this particular table, you could be having these kind of simple these kind of tables. So let's say there is this table, and the name of the table, let's call it users. So let's say there is this users table, and this users table would be having ID, right, would be having uname. That means our usernames are basically saved here, and our passwords are basically here, PASS, password, right? So there could be like different number one, the username password, number two, the username password, number three, the username password. So all the login credentials and everything might be stored over here. Then we basically have our PHP, and so let's understand first of all about HTML. So HTML would be having two columns over here, right, where you have to type one username, right, and then you basically have to type the password, right? And if you type correct ID password, you will be redirected to the dashboard. That means you are being logged in, and there is like login button. Once you click on this login button, you know what happens, right? As soon as you click on the login button, this username and password is compared to the database that we are having, right? If these username and passwords are correspondingly there in a database in a row, basically in this username and password section, we know that these things are existing in the database, and then the server basically redirects me to the dashboard. That means verification successful, and the basically this particular thing is successful. What you want to do, login, is successful, right? So that could be the case. Second case could be that if you click on login and your username and password are not inside this particular database, then that means that you have provided wrong username and password, and then you are basically given a warning that please type in correct username password, or wrong username password. This particular type of message is being displayed, right? Now how this happens, how this username that you give in the HTML is basically compared with SQL, right? This is done through PHP, right? Here where PHP comes in, this is the point where PHP puts the feet in, and where PHP basically works. Now PHP is basically a kind of language that needs a server, as I already told. So if a server is running and if everything is working correctly, this particular PHP would also be working. And how this PHP would be working? This PHP would be taking a variable. So there would be different variables. So there would be a variable for our username, that is $username. So variables are just like temporary data storage, right? Variables are like temporary data storage, and here we would be having these things, $username and $password, right? So we would be having these two variables, and as soon as you click on the login button, what happens, that this username goes to this particular variable, and the password basically goes to this particular variable. So as soon as you click the login button, the username goes to the username variable, password goes to the password variable. So that is the point. And variables are just like the temporary data storage, right? Because now we would use this particular variable to compare with this particular data over here, and use this password to compare with this particular data. And if these two could exist in this, like in the first row, then that means our content is good and we are good to go, right? Second, if it doesn't if we doesn't get that data in the first row, we would try that in second row, then we would try it in third row, until and unless the table is finished. So we have to try it in every row one by one. And once all the rows are finished, right, if we get the data in some row, then login is successful. If we do not get the data, right, login is not successful. That means wrong ID and password, right? So that is the point which is happening. And this is something that we have to go through. Now how does this particular thing works, right? How does this username variable and password variable is compared with SQL? This is done through a PHP backend code. Right now we would be going much more into the advanced part of this particular attack. We would be understanding the basic logic of how it works, and that would be opening mind for you, right? Now your mind would get open if you understand this particular thing, because this is the point when I'll be explaining you a simple PHP code which could also include SQL. So in case you already know about PHP and SQL, it would be very easy for you to understand. If it's something new for you, please do understand, please do listen it very carefully, right? And in case you have any doubt in between, just type in the chats, right? All the people who are also on, seeing this live on YouTube, you can also just type in the YouTube chat box. Okay, so over here let me just simply go over and simply just write what's that particular code, right? So that code is a very simple code, right? You just have to uh, write this code. So select everything from, right? So we are basically selecting all the data. We are currently selecting all the data from means I want to have the data, right? So let's select all the data from which, basically which category, right? Basically I want to select the data. This particular character set that you see, this particular star means everything. So I want to select all the data. That means I want to compare this particular thing in the full table, in the whole table, that if in case we find this thing in any row in the table, we can go through with it, like okay, we have found this thing, right? So in case if this data could be seen anywhere, for example, select all from this table. Which table we are talking about? We are talking about the users table. So I'll be color coding it simply, right? And I'll be just simply going ahead with the color coding technique over here, right? So let me just simply change the color, because we are now talking about the users, so I'll be taking green color over here, right? So select everything from user. And what we want to select with user, we just want to select, you know uh, in users, we just want to, what we want to do, we want to just basically check if this username variable, right, if this particular uname contains this username variable, or if this password column contain this password variable. So we will first of all check this uname with the username, and then this password with the dollar password. So we'll do that, right? So let's just do that, right? So again I have to check what, I have to basically check my dollar username. Now let's basically give the condition, select all from users where. Now the condition has been given where, because we don't have much space, I have to just decrease the font size for now, right? But I'll explain you, right? So now we have to basically select everything from the users table where the uname column, right, where the uname column, where this particular uname column should be equal to, right, where this particular uname column should be equal to what, should be equal to this dollar username, right? So let's now again go into the blue color and just simply type in the same thing, right? So equals, and then basically the single character, right, we are basically having single apostrophe, and then basically we would be typing in the dollar username. So dollar username, that is what we have given, right? So we have basically given this particular thing, right? And now we can just end this with a quotation mark once again, right? So you can see over here we have just put dollar username, right? So we have just said that select everything from the users table where the uname column should have this username variable, right? And now there could be a second, there will be a second situation as well, where we have to check the pass column should be equal to password. Now we have to check both the columns simultaneously, right? We have to check users column as well and password columns as well simultaneously. Now if we check these columns simultaneously, then that means we want to have a condition, and that is a and condition. And conditions means that both should be true. If both are true, then we would be getting the output, then we would be getting the true situation only, right? So both should exist, then only we would be having the login access, right? So here we would be giving just a simple and condition over here. So let's just simply increase the font size and type and, right? And here I would be typing the second condition, that is the password condition. So let's change my color again over here, right? Because I'll be taking the password condition, that means PASS. Right now I'll be talking about password. So password, and then I'll be going through and giving this thing, password is equal to. Now this password has to be compared with what? This password has to be compared with dollar password. So let's just simply type in dollar password over here. So dollar password, right? And now we can just simply close this particular statement as well, right? So this is a simple basic PHP code. Right now, if you can understand it, right, it's a really great. If you cannot understand, or if there's some doubt in this, you can just simply ask in the chat box to explain it again. So this is a pretty interesting thing, right? Select everything from the users table, where the uname column should be equal to the dollar username, and the pass column should be equal to the dollar password. This is basically my whole SQL code, or the whole SQL query that goes inside my PHP, right? That is why I have written it inside the PHP in the blue color. Why? Because everything goes over here. What's different? Please can you just explain your question a little bit so that I may know what you are asking about, right? So basically select all from the users means कि user वाले table के अंदर से सब कुछ select करो, ठीक है? सब कुछ देखना चाहता हूँ मैं यूजर्स के अंदर से, जहाँ पर मैं एक सिंपल सी चीज़ चाहता हूँ दैट यूजर्स क्या है, यूजर्स टेबल का नाम है, ठीक है? यूजर्स हमारे टेबल का नाम है जिसके अंदर सारे के सारे यूज़र नेम और पासवर्ड स्टोर्ड है. मैं क्या करना चाहता हूँ, मैं उस यूजर्स टेबल के अंदर से ऐसा कॉलम सेलेक्ट करना चाहता हूँ जिसके अंदर यूनेम वाला कॉलम मेरे यूज़र नेम के बराबर हो, लाइक जो ये डॉलर यूज़र नेम आ रहा है हमारे HTML से, एंड ये जो पासवर्ड वाला कॉलम है वो डॉलर पासवर्ड के बराबर हो. डैट मीन्स द इनपुट दैट द यूज़र हैज़ गिवन. सो दैट इज़ वॉट वी आर बेसिकली चेकिंग, ठीक है? हम यूज़र्स टेबल के अंदर से यूज़र नेम और पासवर्ड को चेक कर रहे हैं. अगर होता है देन दिस वुड बी ट्रू, राइट? ये वाला कंडीशन ट्रू हो जाएगा, यू नेम पासवर्ड वाला कंडीशन भी ट्रू हो जाएगा, एंड हेंस वी वुड बी गेटिंग द डैशबोर्ड एक्सेस. अगर कोई भी गलत होता है, बिकॉज हमने बीच में एंड लगा रखा है, वी हैव अ एंड कंडीशन बिटवीन. नाउ इफ देयर इज एन एंड कंडीशन दैट मीन्स अगर एक चीज़ ट्रू हुई, राइट, एंड सेकेंड फॉल्स हो गई, तो एट दी एंड आपको फॉल्स ही मिलेगा, राइट? सो अगर आपका यूज़र नेम गलत है या फिर अगर आपका पासवर्ड गलत है, एनी थिंग इफ इट्स इनकरेक्ट, यू विल स्टिल बी गेटिंग अ फॉल्स ओनली, right? So that is the basic point of it. So now what we would be going through, we would be exploiting this particular technique. Now इसको exploit करने का एक बहुत ही अच्छा तरीका है, और इसको exploit कैसे कर सकते हैं? We can just simply exploit it by injecting a SQL injection, by injecting a simple arbitrary SQL code. अब इसको लाइव देखते हैं, ठीक है? सो वापस चलते हैं ऑन आर लॉगिन पेज. तो हम लॉगिन पेज पे आ गए. यहाँ पे आकर मैं क्या करूँगा, यहाँ पे आकर मैं सिंपली एक स्ट्रिंग पास करूँगा, दिस वन. नाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रिंग इज अ स्ट्रिंग दैट आई एम टेकिंग. इसको मैंने कॉपी किया, ठीक है? इस स्ट्रिंग को मैंने यहाँ पे ऊपर भी लिखा, एंड आई हैव बेसिकली रिटन इट इन द पासवर्ड एज वेल. द सेम थिंग, मैंने यही चीज़ कॉपी करके यही चीज़ पासवर्ड में भी पेस्ट करी है, राइट? नाउ आई सिंपली जस्ट क्लिक ऑन लॉगिन, एंड वॉइला वी आर इनसाइड admin panel, right? We have gone into the admin panel, right? So that is how it works, right? This is a live website currently, ठीक है? You don't have the permission to do the attacks or try these attacks on these websites, because I have the permission, right, as I have talked to them, right? Otherwise please don't try on live websites. Practice करनी है तो उसके लिए there is a very good source over there, vulnweb, right? or there is like DBW, web code, या फिर ports करके labs है where you could try practicing this thing. But otherwise, in case you still want to practice it, here we have vulnweb.com, where I could go to all these things. Like you have literally a lot of things to practice. So Microsoft SQL Server हमारे पास AQ forum में भी है, then we have it inside our AQ blog as well, then we have it inside our AQ art as well, and REST API as well. So you can just click on anything and you are good to go. राइट. सो फॉर एग्जांपल आई क्लिक ऑन टेस्ट php. सो हियर वी आर एंड यहाँ पर हमारे पास होगा एक लॉगिन. सो लेट्स क्लिक ऑन द लॉगिन ओवर देयर. वेयर इज द लॉगिन? So we have like a sign up and we have a profile. So over here we have a profile option and basically we have to go to the login page. So once we go to the login page over here, I just have to do the same thing over here. For example, अगर मैं यहाँ पर भी यही same चीज़ copy paste करता हूँ and because you can also see that it's running already on SQL, right? यहाँ पे PHP है and then we could basically see PHP over here, so we know that there is our SQL running. कॉपी पेस्ट किया, लॉगिन पे क्लिक किया, वी आर इनसाइड, राइट. सो हमें डायरेक्ट एंट्री मिल गई. So this is the place where most of the people practice, right? So in case you want to practice, it's a really good system set up by Acunetics. So you can just go ahead and try to practice over there. I'm just giving you the link, right? So in case you want to practice, just do the practice over here. Right. What actions could be taken if one practices the same on live web? You could be directly put to jail because there are like lot of loggers that are currently monitoring SQL injections, right? In case you want to practice it live, or in case you want to do these things on live website, I would suggest you to first of all go towards simple there are like simple programs on hackerone.com and the programs on yeswehack.com, and there are like lot of bug bounty profiles that are publicly available. उनकी वेबसाइट्स पे जाकर ट्राई करोगे, रिपोर्ट करोगे तो पैसा भी मिलेगा, ठीक है. लेकिन ऐसी वेबसाइट्स पे जाकर ट्राई करोगे तो दिक्कत आ सकती है. दैट इज द पॉइंट. सो लेट अस गो एंड अंडरस्टैंड द लॉजिक बिहाइंड इट. ठीक है, इसका एक बार लॉजिक समझते हैं दैट हाउ इट्स हैपनिंग, what is happening generally. So over here you can see this was the thing, and how we exploited it, we just simply exploited it by using this particular command. So हमने क्या यूज़ किया, हमने एक बहुत सिंपल सी चीज़ यहाँ यूज़ करी है, that is basically apostrophe space or right space apostrophe 1 apostrophe equal to apostrophe 1. This is the thing that we used. Now this thing was entered in the username, this thing was also entered in the password. You clicked in the login button, this went to either see dollar username, this also went to dollar password. Then वो चीज़ यहाँ भी आई और वो चीज़ यहाँ भी गई, राइट. सो आपने यही एक चीज़ को इंजेक्ट कर दिया इनसाइड योर यूजर नेम एज वेल एंड इनसाइड योर पासवर्ड एज वेल, राइट. सो दैट इज द पॉइंट ओवर हियर. नाउ लेट मी ट्राई टू शो यू व्हाट रियली हैपेंड, राइट. अगर मैं इसको इंजेक्ट करके दिखाता हूँ अभी, तो यू कैन सी इट योर सेल्फ व्हाट वुड हैपन, राइट. सो अभी हम क्या करते हैं, रेजर से सिंपली लेट मी रिमूव दिस यूजर नेम एंड दिस पासवर्ड, राइट, एंड लेट मी जस्ट सिंपली राइट दिस पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रिंग ओवर हियर, राइट. सो दिस और दिस 1 equals 1. So this is what I gave, right. ये मैंने यहाँ पर दिया, इसको कॉपी कर लेते हैं, इसको हमने यहाँ पर भी दिया है, let's paste it, right, and simply give it over there. So this is what we basically did. Now when we did this thing, when we do this thing, now you can basically see what happens, right. Basically यहाँ पर हमारे पास एक magic हुआ. What's the magic? If you see clearly, हमने क्या किया, what we did basically, we forced this particular character set, we forced this particular apostrophe to be closed. हमने इस apostrophe को close कर दिया, right. We closed this particular apostrophe, and once we closed this particular apostrophe, right, then we know that okay कि यहाँ पे आंसर false आना है. क्यों false आना है? Because uname is equal to, हमने यहाँ पर कुछ करा ही नहीं, देर इज लाइक दिस इज एम्प्टी डेटा, राइट. इफ दिस इज एम्प्टी डेटा वी वुड बी गेटिंग अ फॉल्स आंसर, राइट. सो वी वुड बी गेटिंग अ फॉल्स आउट ऑफ हियर. सो इस फॉल्स को मैं क्या करता हूँ, इस फॉल्स को मैं अभी के लिए यहाँ नीचे लिख देता हूँ, ठीक है. तो मैंने इस फॉल्स को यहाँ लिख लिया बिकॉज यू कैन सी दैट यूनेम इज इक्वल टू नथिंग, राइट. वी डोंट हैव एनीथिंग ओवर हियर इन दिस यूनेम, राइट. सो दैट मीन्स कि यहाँ पे हमें कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा. देन वी हैव अ और, राइट. सो यहाँ पे हमें और मिला. देन वी हैव 1 इज इक्वल टू 1 जिसका एक एपोस्ट्रोफी खुला हुआ है, बट एट द एंड वाला एपोस्ट्रोफी यहाँ पर इतनी दूर लगा, मतलब दैट मीन्स कि यू कैन सी देर इज नो एपोस्ट्रोफी दैट वी हैव अप्लाइड, बट देर इज एन एपोस्ट्रोफी दैट इज ऑलरेडी कमिंग बाय द कोड, ठीक है, कोड के अंदर ऑफिशियली वो एक अपोस्ट्रोफी डाला हुआ है, ऑलरेडी है उसके अंदर, हमने इसीलिए उसको खुला छोड़ा ताकि वो अपने आप बंद हो जाए, राइट। फॉर ऑल द पीपल हु आर इन ऑन देयर फोन्स करेंटली, इसको जूम इन करके देखना है, यहाँ पर आपको दिखेगा स्क्रीन को व्हेन यू जूम इन दैट ओवर हियर यहाँ पे एक अपोस्ट्रोफी है जो ऑटोमेटिकली क्लोज हो चुका है ब्लू वाले अपोस्ट्रोफी से, राइट। सो दैट मीन्स दिस बिकम्स अ कंडीशन नाउ, is 1 is equal to 1, so obviously we know that 1 obviously is equal to 1, it's a universal truth, तो हमें यहाँ पे true मिला। एंड देन उसके बाद we have a and, right, एंड देन आफ्टर दैट वी अगेन हैव दिस पासवर्ड जिसको हमने ऑटोमेटिकली क्लोज कर दिया, एंड जब ये क्लोज हुआ तो यहाँ पर भी हम नथिंग सर्च कर रहे हैं, सो अगेन यहाँ पर भी हमें फॉल्स मिलेगा एक बार, एंड देन वी हैव अ और, राइट, and then we again have this 1 is equal to 1 which got closed अपने आप। So 1 is equal to 1 means again a universal truth, so we basically have a true over here। अगर कंप्यूटर साइंस में बात करें लॉजिकली द क्वेश्चन इज सॉल्व certainly something like that, राइट। सो अगर यहाँ पे देखोगे तो फॉल्स और ट्रू एंड फॉल्स और ट्रू हमारे पास इक्वेशन बनी। फॉल्स और ट्रू जब और कंडीशन बीच में लगता है तो देयर कुड बी एनी कंडीशन, अगर वो ट्रू होता है तो पूरा आंसर ट्रू हो जाता है, सो दिस विल बिकम ट्रू। देन वी हैव एंड इन बिटवीन एंड अगेन वी हैव फॉल्स और ट्रू, दैट मीन्स यहाँ पे आंसर ट्रू आएगा, एंड नाउ वी हैव ट्रू ऑन बोथ द साइड्स। जैसे ही बोथ द साइड्स ट्रू हुआ द ओरिजिनल आंसर दैट वी विल बी गेटिंग वुड बी ट्रू, and this particular true got me to the login page. That is how I was able to log in, bypass the login structure or bypass this particular thing, right? So this is the basic thing, and this is how, you know, uh, this is how basically the things are happening, right? So this is the point, and that's how SQL injection is working. This is the basic SQL injection, the basic kind of injection that could be there. There are like lots of other advanced SQL injection, and there are like lots of other things, but we do that in only the boot camps, right? This won't work in websites that won't allow symbols and username. You can bypass that, Robert. The point is that there is that front end checking going on. You can bypass that front end checking too by using Burp Suite, which is an application provided by Portswigger. So if you download that, through that you can try to bypass that through encoding it in some manner, or just simply checking out where the filter it, and in the request bypassing that particular request, you can simply bypass that filters, and you will be able to go inside, right? If there is a backend sanitization or backend filtration going on, then obviously you cannot do that, and this is the only fix for SQL injection. If there is like any backend checking going on, then the bug won't work. That is the thing. प्रदीप कौन सी साइट पे जाके वर्क करेंगे तो पैसे मिलेगा? दिस गॉट आंसर्ड इन यस्टरडे सेशन। पूरा सेशन कल का दैट वी हैड वाज ऑन बग बाउंटी हंटिंग, एंड दैट बग बाउंटी हंटिंग सेशन, एम आई ऑडिबल? Okay, cool. So basically that is how these connections are basically made, and that is how these things are basically happening, right? I'm not attended yesterday's session. If you have not attended, no issues. जो YouTube पे channel है, we have the channel on YouTube as well. वहाँ पर पूरा session uploaded है. No issues regarding that. You can just go and check out the session as well, right? Okay. So over here you can see that is how you could do this, right? In case you want to take the screenshot, you can take the screenshot for this thing, right? And this is the pure logical thing that we have done right now, right? Channel name, it's just simply Hackersvilla Cybersecurity. Go on to the YouTube channel, go into YouTube, type Hackersvilla, you will be able to find the okay. So there are like lot other things that we do over here, right? There are like lot of other things that we do. There are a lot of other kind of bugs that we do, right? और बहुत सारे ऐसे bugs होते हैं inside our inside these particular things, and these kind of bugs. Yeah, the connection is, I guess, breaking a lot, getting disconnected. Right. So SQL injection could give you these.
second. Maybe he's again joining and connecting. Wait for the next 1 or 2 minutes. I guess just the end part was left, and he was saying that these kinds of bugs can be found. Was the concept of the SQL is clear to you people, or the
Okay.
audio was okay? Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'm audible now. I don't know why, but the connection is there and it's breaking again and again in Google Meet only. So yeah, so basically this particular, right, there are like bug bounty videos that are basically available on the YouTube as well, right? So do go ahead and check out that video, right? And you will be basically able to get the get more things out of how bug bounty basically works, right? So these are the things, and once you are done with those videos, right, you can check out these.
And